Good morning. This is Elimu Live and you are watching KUTV. My name is Teacher STEPLATON. Welcome to our today's lesson. So we'll be handling science. I will stop from where I stopped the last time I was here. We were talking about the human body, and I understand that last week you learned food and nutrition. You are taught by Teacher Edwin Yose, who is a very good friend of mine. So as I told you earlier, the human body is a wide topic, and having done the first part last week but one, I'm going to do the second part and the final part this week. So I will start with the first topic on that is the reproductive system. The reproductive system, these are parts that are involved in reproduction. And reproduction is the giving rise to new offsprings. Giving rise to new offsprings mean multiplication. For example, a child is born, it grows up, the child produces other children once they are adults, and the process goes on and on. That is what is referred to as reproduction. So when we come to learn about reproduction, we're going to look at the reproductive system. And the reproductive system consists of the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. In this topic, there are objectives that need to be achieved. One of the objectives is you need to draw and name the parts of the reproductive system, and you also need to state the functions of each of the parts of the reproductive system. So I will start with the female reproductive system. I will start with the female reproductive system. So the definition of the terms are there. Reproduction, that's the giving rise to new offsprings. And the reproductive system, these are parts. System are parts that are involved in the process of reproduction. So we look at the female reproductive system. And the female reproductive system consists of the following parts. It consists of the following parts. So we have the oviduct, we have the ovary, we have the cervix, we have the uterus, also called the womb, and we have the vagina, also called the birth canal, and finally we have the vulva. So I want us to look at these diagrams. So this is the diagram of the female reproductive system. So number one, this is what we call oviduct. Oviduct, also called the fallopian tube. We have the ovary, that is number two. So we have the ovary. Number four, it's called the womb. The other name of the womb is uterus. Number three is cervix. Number five is vagina. And then we have what you call the vulva here. So these are the parts of the female reproductive system, and that is the diagram that shows the female reproductive system. Now these parts of the female reproductive system perform different functions in the female reproductive system. So I start by giving the function of the vulva, and the function of the vulva is it is an opening into the vagina. Vagina or birth canal, it's the exit of the baby during birth. And apart from being the exit of the baby during birth, this is also where the sperms are deposited during copulation. We'll come to see what is copulation. Then we have the cervix, and the cervix open up into the uterus. Then we have the uterus, also called the womb. It houses the fetus during pregnancy, and it allows implantation to take place, and it also contributes to the birth process. As we move forward with the lesson, we'll come to see what is implantation, and we'll also come to see how does the uterus contribute to the birth process. We have the oviduct, also called the fallopian tube, and it is where fertilization takes place. As we move on, we'll also come to define the term fertilization. Then we have the ovary, and the ovary produces the ova, that is in plural, and in singular it is called the ovum. And that process of production of the ova is what we call ovulation. And ovulation takes place after every 28 days. And a female has two ovaries, one on the right and the other one on the left. Let's look at the diagram. So we have two ovaries, one on the right and the other one on the left. So these are the ovaries that I'm talking about. So this is the first ovary, this is the second ovary. Now these ovaries produce the ova, and it takes place after every 28 days. And the ovaries produce ova alternatively. So the right produces, then the next 28 days the left ovary is going to produce. As we proceed with this lesson, I will also be answering KCP question in the process of the lesson. So I'm not going to answer the KCP questions at the end. I will answer as I proceed, depending with the subtopic that the question was set. So my first KCP question is 2016, number 5, and it came from what we have just learned. So let's look at the question. 2016, number 5, I will read. The diagram below represents a female reproductive system. Which one of the following parts labeled P, Q, R, and S is correctly matched to its function? So the first thing, we identify the parts. So part P, this is the oviduct, also called the fallopian tube. Part Q is the ovary. Part R, this is the uterus, also called the womb. And part S is the vagina. So having identified the parts, we can now look at the parts and the functions. So part P, which we had said is the oviduct, the function, site for fertilization, that is correct answer. Part Q, which was the ovary, site for implantation, wrong. Ovary, which is part Q, produces the ova through a process called ovulation. Site for implantation takes place in the uterus or the womb. R was our womb, and the function of the womb is not egg formation. The function of the womb is it houses the fetus during pregnancy. S was the vagina, and the function of the vagina, it's used as a birth canal. So our right answer, KCP 2016, number 5, was A. P, site for fertilization. Okay, we move on and we look at the male reproductive system. So the male reproductive system also has got different parts, and the different parts of the male reproductive system perform different functions. So some of the parts of the male reproductive system are, we have the penis, we have the testis, we have the sperm duct, we have the scrotum. These parts perform different functions. Let's look at the diagram first of the male reproductive system as we identify these parts, where the different parts are. So we have the male reproductive system, and the parts of the male reproductive system, we have the testis, and the function of the testis is to produce the sperms. We also have the scrotum, and the function of the scrotum is it holds the testis in position. We also have the penis, and the penis is a muscular organ that is used to deposit the sperms into the vagina during copulation. So this is the penis. I want you to look at the diagram. This is the penis here. So we also have the scrotum. This is the scrotum, and the part of the scrotum is right here, you can see. So we have the vas deferens, which the other name is sperm duct. We also have the urethra. You can see the urethra here. We'll be looking at the functions later. So we also have epididymis or epididymis. This is where it is. Then we have what we call glands, and the two glands, one is this and the other one is that. So in primary syllabus, we don't need to know the glands. As you learn, it's good to stick to the syllabus. I know you might have brothers and sisters who are in high school who know a lot more than what we learn. So we learn the few that we need to know according to the syllabus. So we just talk about glands. We don't go on to give the examples of the glands. So those are the parts of the male reproductive system. These parts have got different functions. Let's look at the different functions of the male reproductive system. So we have the testis, the first one, and the function of the testis is to produce the sperms. We also have the scrotum, and the function of the scrotum is to hold the testis. This is the plural of testis. In singular is written like that. So it holds the testis in position and helps to control its temperature. Penis is a muscular organ that deposits sperms into the vagina during mating. Urethra allows the passage of sperms and urine. Sperm duct transports sperms from the epididymis in the testis to the urethra. And finally, the glands that I circled produce a fluid that enables the sperms to swim properly. The fluid that is produced by the glands is called semen. So semen enables the sperm to swim properly from the penis once they are deposited into the vagina. So we have said the scrotum controls the temperature. The temperature for sperm production needs to be average, such that the scrotum can either shrink or relax depending on the temperature, so that it can be able to get the right temperature. Now, a question to this topic: pupils usually get excited when it comes to this topic, and they forget the main reason or the main objective of the topic. So it's good to be focused and to be attentive and not to get overexcited. So having looked at the male reproductive system, we look at adolescence. And adolescence is a transition period. Once someone is born, the person is a child, grows up to the age of 10, 13, then there is a period of transition between childhood and adulthood. That period of transition is what is called adolescence. And adolescence affects both boys and girls. And during adolescence, this is a stage where boys and girls really struggle a lot because they start to experience so many changes in their body system. Now, the adolescence in girls starts earlier than the adolescence in boys. So in short, girls mature faster than boys. But at the end of it all of them are able to move through the transition period and become adults. So let's look at what adolescence is. So it is the transition period between childhood and adulthood, and it starts at about 9 to 10 years, that is in girls. I've told you girls mature faster than boys, and then 11 to 13 years in boys. During this stage we call adolescence, the adolescent is the person in the adolescence period. At this stage, we have different changes in the body system, and these changes are brought about by what we call hormones. And hormones are chemical substances produced by our bodies that control different activities into the body. Now, at this stage, there are hormones that start to be produced, which lead to changes. These changes, we can categorize them into two. We can have emotional changes and physical changes. Physical changes are what we can see. They affect the physique. The physique is the structure of the person. If it's a boy, there are things that we can observe and see. If it's a girl, the same. So such, we call them physical changes. Then we also have emotional changes. Emotional, from the word emotions. Emotions has everything to do with feelings. So emotional changes affect the feelings of an adolescent. So let's look at these physical changes first. The physical changes, we have physical changes specifically for boys, we have physical changes specifically for girls, and we have physical changes for both boys and girls, which are similar for both boys and girls. So let's first of all look at the physical changes that are specifically for boys and specifically for girls, because that is an examinable area. So let's look at the physical changes. In boys, we will look at them, boys and girls. In boys, we have what we call wet dreams. In girls, we have what we call menstrual flow. So let me explain what wet dreams and menstrual flow are. Wet dreams, this is an experience that adolescent boys usually have, such that during the night when they are asleep, they end up releasing the sperms, and they release the sperms without being engaged in sexual intercourse. The release of the sperms in such a case is what we refer to as wet dreams. Most of them, they wake up in the morning and they assume it is bedwetting. Bedwetting, in simple terms, is urinating on the bed at night. So most of them think it's bedwetting, but it is not bedwetting. It is what we call wet dreams. For girls, they experience what we call menstrual flow. Once the ovaries have produced the ova through a process we call ovulation, as we have looked at it earlier, these ovaries, once they are not fertilized, they are passed outside in form of blood, and that process is what we refer to as menstrual flow or menstruation period. And that is what girls start to experience during their adolescence, and most of them start to feel embarrassed. But don't get embarrassed, girls. This is very normal, and every other adult woman underwent the same. So you just take the necessary precaution that you know. Point number 2, shoulders and chest broaden. That is for boys. Concentrate, it is shoulders and the chest that broaden. For girls, is what you call the hips. The hips broaden. In boys, the voice breaks, which means the voice becomes rough. or we have the bass in this case. In the girls, it's the opposite. The voice deepens and they start to talk a very soft voice. We have growth of beards in boys and growth of beards and hair. So both the beards grow on the chin and the hair grow on the chest. But for girls, they don't grow beards. Instead, the breasts enlarge. So these are the physical changes that occurs in boys and girls separately. So we can't have growing of breasts in both boys and girls, or we can't have beards for both boys and girls. So the next now are the physical changes that can occur in both boys and girls. So these are physical changes, both boys and girls. Growth of pubic hair. Pubic hair grows around the pubic area, and the pubic area, in simple terms, those are the private parts. So we have hair that grows around the private parts. Hair grows under the armpits. For those who don't know where the armpit is, this is the armpit, the area around this place. This is what we refer to as the armpit. So hair starts to grow, and it happens in both boys and girls. We have rapid increase in weight and height. We have increased appetite, and on rapid increase in weight and height, it comes with a challenge to the girls. Now, most of the girls wouldn't prefer to have an overgrown weight. So most of them will try as much as possible not to have that weight. That can lead to them having what you call eating disorders. Some of them will eat and then induce vomiting, which is very wrong. Or some of them will try to eat very little food so that they do not grow large. But my advice is, these are body changes. It is just for a period of time, so you don't have to get stressed about it. So we also have pimples appear, and pimples appear on the face for both boys and girls. Release of mature sex cells. So the mature sex cells here, I'm talking about the sperms, and the sperms are produced by the boy child. And then we also have the ova, or the ovum in singular, and these ones are produced by the girl child. Then we have the emotional changes. Emotional changes, I said it deals with your feelings. So we have one, attraction to the opposite sex. Boys get attracted to girls. Girls get attracted to boys. We have embarrassment. Embarrassment comes in such that when the girl starts to experience their menses, they start to get embarrassed. For the boys, when they start to break their voice, they fear to speak. They become embarrassed when they speak. But there's no need to worry. So you just accept the changes as they come. Then we have shyness. Boys and girls in adolescence are very shy, rebellious. Most of them don't want to be told what to do. They want to do what they want, which is also not right. We also have mood swings, and these mood swings are brought due to the hormones imbalance. Mood swings appear in a way that someone can easily change their moods from being very happy all of a sudden to being extremely sad or extremely bored. Those are what we refer to as mood swings, switching from one mood to the other, and which is the opposite. In that area, there is a question in KCPE that I want us to look at. As I've said, I am teaching as I revise. So I'm going to look at 2018, number 21. Which one of the following occurs in both boys and girls? Which one of the following occurs in both boys and girls? This one has to take place in both of them. We have production of sex cells, hips broaden, voice breaks, enlargement of breasts. Let's look at them. Production of sex cells, this one is for both. Boys produce the sperms, girls produce the ovum. Hips broaden, this one is for girls, not for both. Voice breaks, this one is for boys. Enlargement of breasts, this one is for girls. So right answer, KCP 2018, was choice A. That was the right answer. And as I move on, I also want to be answering your questions. Will not have also time for that. So I have my first question. Teacher, it is Derian. Can you explain the term implantation? I will explain it as I proceed. Okay, my name is Millicent Mora from Kiambu. My question is, why does a baby cry when he or she gets out of the womb? I will also answer that as I proceed with my lesson. So it is right ahead. That is all about the reproductive system. So we have looked at the parts of the reproductive system and its functions. We have also looked at adolescence and the changes. So our next on the human body, we look at the circulatory system. Circulatory system is a system that looks at the circulation of blood. It looks at the circulation of blood from the heart to the lungs and to the body parts. So we have the parts that are involved in blood circulation. The parts involved in blood circulation, number one, we have the blood, which is the liquid that flows. We have the heart. The heart is a muscular organ that pumps the blood. The main function of the heart in blood circulation is to pump blood. And we have blood vessels. Blood vessels are channels through which blood flows. So we start by looking at blood. So those are the parts that are involved in the circulatory system. So blood is the red liquid substances that is found in our body. It's the red liquid substance that is found in our body, and it consists of the following components. It has component called plasma, platelets, white blood cells, red blood cells, and blood is also the main transport system. These blood components are found inside blood and they perform different functions. So we look at the first one, which is called plasma. The first blood vessel, which is called plasma, and that is the diagram of plasma. So many books can't draw that because it is the liquid part of the blood. It is pale yellow in color. Then it is the most abundant. Let me answer a question I've just received. I said I'll be answering as I move. It is Linda from Kakamega. What is the difference between cervix and vagina? Vagina is where the sperms are deposited, whereas the cervix is an opening to the uterus. The cervix is found above the vagina. So we go on. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. It is pale in yellow. It is the most abundant and it is a living component of blood. Now we look at the functions of plasma. It helps in transportation. Now let's look at what it transports. One, digested food. Digested food from the ileum to other body parts. Ileum to other body parts. Carbon dioxide, it transports carbon dioxide, that is from where the exchange of gases take place. It transports wastes to the excretory organs. Then it transports hormones from the ducts where they're produced to where they're needed. It transports heat, and heat is produced by the liver. So it transports heat from the liver to other body parts. It also suspends other blood components. This is a key point. It suspends other blood components. You are likely to be asked in an examination which blood component suspends other blood components, and the right answer is plasma. Now, this is NB. What to note? Number one, it does not transport oxygen. Plasma does not transport oxygen. It transports carbon dioxide. We'll be looking at what transports oxygen. That is one. Number two, plasma does not produce heat. Heat is produced by the liver. It only transports heat from the liver to other body parts. So those are things to note, and it does not transport food in the gut. The last time we looked at the gut and we said the gut is the alimentary canal. So it does not transport food in the alimentary canal, but it transports food from the ileum. Remember, the function of the ileum is where absorption of digested food takes place. So it transports food from the ileum to other body parts, not within the digestive system. I hope that one is clearly understood. Platelets is our next. Platelets, we define platelets. Just a minute. We can look at the white blood cells before we look at the platelets. So the white blood cells, that is the diagram of a white blood cells, and they keep on changing their shape. So in that case, they are referred to as shapeless. The white blood cells are shapeless. They are made in the yellow bone marrow or the spleen or the lymph glands. They have the nucleus. If you look at your diagram keenly, you can see the nucleus. This is what we refer to as the nucleus. They are fewer than the red blood cells. They are a living component of blood, and they fight diseases through engulfing. The disease-causing germs are fought in the body by what we call the blood cells, the white blood cells. This is the process of engulfing. So we have the white blood cell here. This one is an example of a germ. So the white blood cell changes the shape and makes a curve so that the germ can fit in the curve. You can see now this is the germ fitting in the curve. Then the white blood cells closes up and the germ is found inside the white blood cell. This is the germ. Then the white blood cells completely closes, and then the germ is killed and destroyed. This is what is referred to as engulfing. So we have the germ, we have the white blood cells. Finally, the germ gets into the white blood cells and it is destroyed completely. That is what we call engulfing. And it's important to note that white blood cells have what we call antibodies, and antibodies help our bodies to fight against diseases. So the function of the white blood cells is it helps to fight and kill diseases, and that process is called engulfing. We can look at the next type of the blood component, which we have the platelets, and they are the smallest blood components. Look at the diagram. Sometimes they give you a drawn diagram, so you look at the diagram. That's the platelets. They are the smallest blood components. They are living components. They help in blood clotting. So this is where I want you to be very keen. So the function of the platelets is it helps in blood clotting, and this stops bleeding. It protects the body against disease-causing germs, and they die after a few days. Let me explain how it protects the body against disease-causing germs. Once someone is bleeding, and then the platelets are transported to the area where the bleeding takes place, the bleeding stops and the wound gets sealed. Once the wound gets sealed, there will be no germs that get into the wound. That is how platelets prevent disease-causing germs from attacking our body. Now, from your last lesson, you also learned that during blood clotting, we have calcium and vitamin K that also helps in blood clotting. So platelets, together with calcium, together with vitamin K, helps in blood clotting. We look at our next blood component, which are the red blood cells. That is the shape of the red blood cells. I want you to look at them very well. And the functions of the red blood cells are as follows. First of all, the shape is that they are biconcave. Biconcave means disc-shaped. Biconcave means disc-shaped. They have no nucleus. We learned that nucleus are found in the white blood cells. So they have no nucleus, the red blood cells. They are made in the red bone marrow and destroyed in the liver. They contain the red coloring matter called hemoglobin. The red coloring matter is called hemoglobin. Don't say chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green coloring matter in plants. The red coloring matter in blood is called hemoglobin. They last in the body 3 to 4 months, and their main function is transportation of oxygen. Remember, we said that plasma does not transport oxygen, but it transports carbon dioxide. Now we have come to see that oxygen now is transported by the red blood cells, which are biconcave, and they have a red coloring matter called hemoglobin. When oxygen combines with hemoglobin to be transported, it forms what we call oxyhemoglobin. The ratio of the red blood cells to white blood cells is 600:1, which means red blood cells ratio white blood cells is 600:1, which means red blood cells are more. Remember, we said white blood cells are less. An examiner can twist it and ask you the ratio of white blood cells ratio red blood cells. So remember, it will now change. It will be 1:600. Don't cram, but understand. It is always important to understand and not to cram. So we look at a question in KCP, our third question that was brought on that subtopic that you have just looked at it. Question KCP 2019, question number 30. Which one of the following components is correctly, you always underline the keywords, correctly matched to its function? Plasma transport oxygen, wrong. Remember, it does transportation but not of oxygen. White blood cells heat distribution, wrong. Heat distribution is done by plasma. Platelets blood clotting, that is correct. Correct. Red blood cells transport iron, not really. It transports oxygen. So 2019 number 30, the right answer was C. We look at blood vessels now, and as I said, blood vessels are tubes through which blood flows, and blood vessels are three. So we have capillaries, we have veins, and we have arteries. These blood vessels have their diagrams, and the diagrams are different. Their characteristics are different, and their functions also. Let's quickly look at the blood vessels. So we start with veins and arteries. Veins and arteries, most of their adaptations are a difference to each other. They are the opposite of the other one. So we look at the veins. Veins are medium-sized blood vessels, whereas arteries are largest. Veins carry blood to the heart. Arteries carry blood out of the heart. Veins carry blood at low pressure. Arteries carry blood at high pressure. Veins have no valves, whereas arteries have valves, and the function of a valve is to prevent the backflow of blood. In veins they have no pulse rate, but in arteries they have a pulse rate. Then veins are found near the skin surface, whereas the arteries are found deep into the skin. Veins have a wide lumen. Veins have a wide lumen, while arteries have a narrow lumen. Veins are thick, non-elastic, thin, not thick, thin and elastic, while arteries are thick and elastic. Veins carry oxygenated blood apart from pulmonary vein. That is a key point. Veins carry oxygenated blood apart from pulmonary vein, while arteries carry oxygenated blood apart from pulmonary artery. Oxygenated blood is blood with oxygen. Oxygenated blood is blood that has oxygen in it. Oxygenated blood is pale red in color. It is pale red in color. Sometimes it also called scarlet red in color. Deoxygenated blood, on the other hand, is blood without oxygen, and deoxygenated blood, so without oxygen, and deoxygenated blood is dark red in color. We have the diagram of an artery and a vein. So we have the artery. This is the thick wall you can see in an artery. This is the thick wall. In a vein, it is thin. You can see it there. We have valves in veins, and we don't have valves in arteries. I tell my pupils to remember this. Very key things can help you remember. VV, veins, valves. So veins have valves. That is a key thing. So when you draw an artery looks something like that in a diagram, whereas when we draw a vein looks something of that sort. Then it has the valves. So that is the difference between veins and arteries. So we look at capillaries, and capillaries are a connection of the veins and the arteries. They are single-celled, and they are the smallest of all blood vessels. They are permeable. To be permeable, it means they can allow materials in and out. So they are permeable, and they are found all over the body. Then they carry blood at low pressure. And finally, capillaries, they have no valves. A KCP question was set in that area. I want us to look at it a little fast because I want to complete. KCP 2012 number 5. Which of the following statement is true about blood vessels in the human body? I told you to be underlining the keywords. Correct. All veins carry deoxygenated blood. That is wrong. We said all veins carry deoxygenated blood apart from pulmonary vein. So they did not complete. That is wrong. Blood pressure in arteries is higher than veins. That is correct. That is why they have a thick wall. Arteries have valves that control the flow of blood. That is wrong. Valves, I've told you, VV. Valves are found in veins. Remember that. Arteries have thinner walls than those of veins. That is wrong. That is the opposite. Veins have thinner walls than arteries. So having looked at the blood and having looked at the blood vessels, I want us to look at the heart. And the heart is a muscular organ that pumps blood all around the body. The heart is not a complicated diagram. The most important thing is to know how to label the parts of the heart. Let's look at the heart. Before we look at the heart, we have another question also. KCP 2001 number 15. Which one of the following statement is not true? Underline the keywords. About all arteries. They carry blood away from the heart. That is true. They asked which one is not true. They have thick walls. True. Blood pressure is high. True. They carry blood rich in oxygen. Not all of them carry blood rich in oxygen, but they said all. Pulmonary artery carries blood is not rich in oxygen. So this is our diagram of the heart. The most important thing is to label. So we have vena cava there. We have pulmonary artery there. We have aorta, which is there. Then we have pulmonary vein. Those are the blood vessels that are found in the heart. We also have what we call chambers. The heart is divided into 4 chambers. We have the right auricle. And as I told you the other time, every diagram drawn in science is laterally inverted. Your right becomes the left. So this is what you call the right auricle there. Then we have the right ventricle, left auricle, and then we have left ventricle. Upper chambers are called auricles, while lower chambers are called ventricles. So I want to teach about blood circulation using this diagram. So we can have our body, can draw body there, then we can draw the lungs. I told you the function of the lungs is to purify the blood or to add oxygen. Blood from the body gets into the lungs, gets into the heart through what you call the vena cava. So vena cava receives deoxygenated blood, which is dark red in color, enters through the right auricle. We have valves in the heart that prevents the backflow of blood. You don't need to know the names of these valves. So it goes to the right auricle, then to the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps the blood out of the heart, and blood gets out through what you call pulmonary artery into the lungs. The lungs are referred to as a support organ in blood circulation. It's not the main, but it's a support organ because it purifies blood. Blood from the lungs gets back into the heart. Remember, that is now oxygenated blood. So the right side of the heart gives you deoxygenated blood, whereas the left side of the heart has what we call oxygenated blood with oxygen. So blood from the lungs enters the heart through the pulmonary vein to the left auricle, then to the left ventricle, and leaves the heart back to the body through the aorta. It gets back to the body, and the circle continues and continues. Now in the heart, the main vein is called the vena cava, while the main artery is called aorta. So that's what you need to know. The heart has valves that prevent backflow of blood. The left side of the heart, the right side of the heart carries deoxygenated blood. The left side of the heart carries oxygenated blood. The lungs purifies blood in the circulatory system. There are now questions that you're likely to be asked. One of the questions is, a person was bitten by a poisonous snake. Which blood vessel receives the poison first? Which blood vessel receives the poison first? Remember, that is blood coming from the body, any part of the body. So the first blood vessel to receive poisonous blood is vena cava. Now, apart from being asked the first blood vessel, you can be asked the first chamber. The first chamber now will be right auricle. Answer the question the way it is said. Don't cram. The other question you can be asked, a person inhaled poisonous gases. It is not being bitten by a snake now. It is inhaling poisonous gases. Which blood vessel received poison first? Remember, inhaling, that is exchange of gases, and exchange of gases takes place here in the lungs. So we look at the blood that gets into the heart from the lungs, and that is the pulmonary artery. So the first blood vessel to receive poisonous blood through inhaling is pulmonary artery, while the first chamber is left auricle. Those are questions that are usually set. The last part about the heart that is very important is the left ventricle is the most muscular. Why? You can be asked that. It is the most muscular because it pumps blood to all the body parts. So it needs to be very muscular to pump the blood. So the main reason why the left ventricle is more muscular is it pumps blood to all body parts. Let's look at some of the KCP questions that were set. 2019, the other year. Number 28, which one of the following pairs of blood vessels carry deoxygenated blood? That is the key word, deoxygenated blood. Vena cava carries deoxygenated blood, aorta does not. Pulmonary artery carries oxygenated blood, so that is not, that is right. A pulmonary vein, no. Vena cava carries deoxygenated blood, correct. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood also. So the right answer was C in that question. Let's look at the other KCP, the former previous year. 2018, number 23. Which of the following blood vessels carries blood from the left ventricle? From the left ventricle. According to our diagram, we can look at that from the left ventricle. So we come here, we look at the left ventricle. The left ventricle is here, and that blood is carried by this part, this blood vessel, and that blood vessel is aorta. So our right answer to that question is aorta. So the right answer was choice C, aorta. that is all about blood circulation, and we are now doing the last part of the human body, and that is what we call the reproductive system, or reproduction in human beings. So that is the last part that I want us to look at, and I'll be very fast, so you have to bear with me. So we start by defining some terms. Reproduction is the process of giving rise to new offsprings, and at puberty, the boys and the girls produce sex cells. We already looked at that, and it is enhanced through hormones. So I want us to look at egg production and ovulation. So egg production is also called ovulation. So the ovaries produce the ova through a process that we call ovulation, which takes place after every 28 days. Now, after ovulation, the ovum takes around 3 to 6 days to move through the oviduct. The oviduct, also called the fallopian tube. Now, the life of unfertilized egg is about 2 days. The life of unfertilized egg is about 2 days. After 2 days, it dies. So let's look at fertilization. And fertilization is the fusion of the male and female sex cells. During copulation, which is sexual intercourse, sperms are deposited into the vagina by the penis. The depositing of sperms by the penis is what we call ejaculation. And in one ejaculation, 1 million sperms are produced. And the sperms swim to the oviduct where fertilization takes place. Only one sperm is able to fertilize the ovum. Once fertilization has taken place, we have what we call formation of a zygote. So this is what I'm trying to explain. So we have an ovum and we have a sperm. So this one sperm fertilizes an ovum, and once that fertilization has taken place, it leads to what we call a zygote. So after fertilization, what is formed is what we call a zygote. Up to that point, let's answer a KCP question. KCP 2018, number 22. A human zygote is formed in the dash. The right answer is oviduct. A human zygote is formed in the oviduct. So after that, the zygote travels down to the uterus, and the uterine wall starts to prepare to receive the zygote by forming thick uterine muscles. And these thick uterine muscles, once the zygote reaches the uterus, it gets attached through a process called implantation. Now, once the zygote gets implanted, it's now not called a zygote, it is called an embryo. A question in KCP: which one attaches itself? The answer is an embryo. So that is a KCP question that was asked. The process of attachment is what we call implantation, and a disc-shaped organ that joins the embryo to the uterus develops, and this disc-shaped organ is called placenta. I want us to look at a KCP question. KCP 2017. Which one of the following attaches itself to the uterus walls to develop into a baby? The right answer is an embryo. So we look at now functions of the placenta, and functions of the placenta are as follows. 1, it facilitates gaseous exchange. Most of its function is facilitation. So it facilitates gaseous exchange, movement of food from the mother to the baby, movement of waste from the baby to the mother. It also facilitates prevention, or it prevents the mixing of fetal blood and maternal blood. The fetus blood and the mother's blood do not mix, because if they mix, the mother's blood is under high pressure while the fetus blood is not under high pressure. So it can lead to the rupturing of the blood vessels of the of the fetus. It also prevents harmful substances from reaching into the fetus. Those are the functions of the placenta. We also have the amniotic sac, and amniotic sac is a structure that contains a fluid inside. The fluid found inside is what we refer to as amniotic sac. Amniotic sac has what you call amniotic fluid, and amniotic fluid does the following functions. It allows free movement of the fetus. The fetus can be able to turn. It allows or it prevents dehydration. It allows hydration, so it prevents dehydration, and dehydration is the drying up. It also acts as a shock absorber, and it acts as a lubricant during the process of giving birth. Process of giving birth is called parturition. So those are the functions of the amniotic fluid. Then we also have the umbilical cord, which is a flexible tube that connects the fetus to the placenta, and its function is it leads to transportation of food from the mother to the fetus, the wastes from the fetus to the mother, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Remember, the placenta facilitates the transfer, but the umbilical cord does the transfer. There was a question in KCPE that was asked in that area. I want us to look at that question. Sorry, just a minute. While I'm looking for the question, we can look at signs of pregnancy. How do you know that someone is pregnant? There are different signs of pregnancy, and the first sign is menstruation flow stops. Menstruation flow stops, that is the first sign of pregnancy. Menstruation flow stops. Morning sickness starts. This is sickness that pregnant women experience in the morning. We have swelling of feet in some women. This swelling of feet is called odema. We have abdominal enlargement, or the abdomen enlarges. The breasts enlarge, become big, and apart from becoming big, they become tender and very sensitive. Then we have what you call fetal movement, which is felt around 4 to 5 months. Craving for specific foods. Women during this process crave for some specific food. Then we have spitting of saliva, and on some occasions we have the breast produces milk. Those are the signs of pregnancy. And the first sign, if you be asked, the first sign of pregnancy is the menstruation flow stops. The first sign of pregnancy is menstruation flow stops. The last part is the birth process. I want you to look at that diagram. We have the placenta, we have the umbilical cord, the uterus, the hair, the cervix, and the vagina. Now, the process of giving birth is what you call parturition. Process of giving birth is what you call parturition, and it occurs after 9 months. That is what we refer to as gestation period. So the gestation period is the period between pregnancy and birth, or period between conception. Conception is the act of becoming pregnant, and birth, that is what you call gestation period. Now, during this process, it's where the fetus starts to form. So at about 9 months, as it approaches, the fetus turns and the head faces downwards, according to the diagram that I've shown you. Then this is because the head comes out first during birth. So we have the signs or the process of giving birth, how they start. The process of giving birth. So the first process is what we call turning of the baby. Turning of the baby is also called engagement. We have contraction of the uterine wall. We have the labor pains. We have dilation of the cervix. We have bursting of the amniotic sac. We have expulsion of the baby. We have tying and cutting of the umbilical cord. So tying and cutting of the umbilical cord is important because we tie so that we prevent blood loss, and we cut the umbilical cord to separate the fetus or the baby from the mother, to make the baby become independent. Then the last part is the afterbirth release. The afterbirth includes the part of the placenta and the uterine wall. They are usually thrown away. So that is the birth process, and that is how it occurs. So you can have a formula that says, if you want to remember the birth process, so you can have this. The formula can be truly Caroline likes doing basic experiments concerning animals. So I would like to end my lesson there. I know time has not been much on our side today, but nevertheless, I believe you've enjoyed the lesson. Bye for now, and keep safe. Have yourselves a wonderful day.